This story takes place in the Worstverse, the same universe as werewolves are assholes. If you want to follow Josh's writing, go to the link in the description to the Worstverse subreddit. A Dracula in the Basement by Joshua Waggoner. It all started when my best friend Moses came running up to me in an absolute panic. He'd lived a few doors down from me in our apartment complex since kindergarten all the way up until now, a few months into 6th grade. I'd been riding my bicycle around our apartment when he literally jumped out in front of me.
Eli! Holy shit, bro, come with me! I gotta tell you something!
He yelled as I slammed on the brakes, causing the bike to squeal to a stop.
Christ, dude, I almost ran you over.
I yelled, but he ignored me. He took me by the wrist and tried to lead me behind the building, but I snatched my arm away. Let me get my bike, I'm not leaving that out here for some crackhead to steal. Once I picked up my bicycle, I followed him around the building to see what he was tripping over. Okay, Mo, what's got you so tore up? I asked him.
First you gotta promise not to tell anyone. Promise, he said.
Okay, yeah, sure, I promise. I assured him. He was always up to no good and in some kind of trouble. But the boy was harmless and never meant anything serious, so I figured it wouldn't be too hard of a promise to keep. But then he pulled me in real close and whispered to me.
Eli, there is a Dracula in the basement.
Trying to process his words, I pulled my head back, rubbing my temples for a second before saying, Moses, what did you just say to me?
There's a Dracula in the basement,
he whispered again loudly. Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. So you're telling me there's some old white dude with a widow's peak, old clothes, a cape, hairy palms in our basement calling himself Dracula? I asked him.
What? No, that's not what I...
Never mind, just follow me, he said, trying to drag me along behind him again.
I'm not leaving my bike out here,
I yelled again, trying to pick it up before rolling along to catch up to him. I followed him into the apartment complex and down towards the basement. Before the building was converted into houses for Section 8, it was an abandoned multi-level department store decades ago. So the basement was huge, being used for merchandise storage and to house the boilers for the rest of the building. It was hard to keep up with him moving as fast as it was.
Would you chill out?
I yelled after him as I stumbled over one of the bike's pedals.
Bruh, hurry up!
He yelled back, clearing 2 or 3 steps at a time as he bounded down the stairwell. Finally, I got to the bottom where he was waiting for me in front of the basement doors. That was when I noticed something I hadn't earlier. He had a dirty rag hanging out of his back pocket that seemed to have some dark stains on it. Before I could ask what they were, he pushed one of the doors open and gestured for me to follow him. Once we were both inside and the doors closed behind us, he flipped the light switch. The fluorescent bulbs hummed to life and lit up the area with the chain-link fence storage cages for the occupants. Though most were empty on account that many of the residents didn't own enough possessions to need any extra space to store them. Then I caught something different than usual. A trail leading back deeper into the basement where the lights didn't reach. A trail of what looked like droplets of some kind. And that's when I started to get a little worried. Mo, what's that stuff on the floor? I asked in a hushed voice.
It started at the front doors upstairs, but I didn't have enough time to wipe it all up before I came and got you. So I just did the places people might see before I brought you back with me, he replied.
That doesn't answer my question, Moses.
Come on, back this way,
he instructed, walking into the darker parts of the basement, back towards the boiler rooms where nobody ever goes anymore. As we got close to the boiler room, he took out a small flashlight from his pocket. And once we rounded the corner into the room, I heard him click it on before he shined it down into the direction of the furnace on the other side from us. I saw something moving behind one of the pipes. My jaw almost hit the ground when my vision focused and I realized what it was. The figure stood covering their face with one hand and squinting as the light hit their eyes. I was looking at a pale girl about our age or a little older. She had an oversized white t-shirt that dropped down to her bare legs. Her dirty, tangled blonde hair was almost the same level as the bottom of the t-shirt. What scared the hell out of me was what I could now clearly tell was the source of the trail of the droplets. The front of her t-shirt was almost completely stained with red, with what was obviously blood. Blood that led all the way up her neck to her mouth, which was also covered in the dried reddish-brown crust.
Oh my God!
I screamed, snatching Moses back around the corner by his arm and running full blast towards the basement doors. I pretty much tackled the doors open, causing them to bang loudly off the walls, which echoed up to the previously quiet stairwell. Once we were through, I shoved Moses up against the wall and started yelling in his face.
What the f***? fuck are you thinking? I shouted. Do you have any idea how much trouble we might be in now? You got a half-naked, hurt white girl down in the basement covered in blood. Do you have any idea what's going to happen to us if they think 2 black kids kept a bloody white girl in the nasty old basement of a housing project? Oh my God, and she's blonde too. You know how much white people like blonde girls. I screamed, poking a finger into his chest in anger. Jesus Christ, they're going to give us both the chair. Nah, they're going to give us this firing squad if they find her down there and she mentions that we're down there with her. Excuse me, hi. It took a while for the sound and echo of the ungodly loud shriek that came out of me to dissipate after hearing the voice suddenly speak from behind me. The girl from the boiler room continued to speak as I tried to catch my breath. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to scare you guys. I just need a place to stay until tonight. Then I'll leave. Please don't tell anyone I'm down here until then, please. She said plainly before walking quietly back through the basement doors and out of sight once again. After a few moments of stunned silence, I shoved Moses again. You really fucked us this time, I hissed. I told you there was a Dracula down here, he said excitedly. Okay, first, you mean a vampire. Dracula is a specific vampire from an old book, dumbass. And second, there's no such thing. That girl clearly has something wrong with her. She's covered in blood and chilling in a basement. She ain't right. And now we're screwed. We can't tell anyone or they'll think we had something to do with all the blood. And if we don't tell anyone and she snitches on us, we're still equally screwed because it looks like we're trying to hide it down there. We sat in the empty stairwell for several more minutes before I finally stood up and dusted myself off. Okay. Well, you got me into this, so now I'm gonna have to go back down there and work this shit out with us so we don't end up on the 5 o'clock news. Give me the flashlight, I told him, holding out my hand. You're really gonna go in there and talk to the Dracula? Yes, digging through his pockets. Vampire, not Dracula. I mean, wait, she's not a vampire. She's probably some girl that came from the other apartment that got smacked around by her parents and came down here to hide before she runs away, I explained as he placed the flashlight in my hand. Now wait right here and don't make things any worse, I said as I walked back through the basement door. Hey there, Miss White Girl. I just wanted to talk to you for a second about some stuff, I said as I shined the flashlight around the corner towards the furnace. Once the light hit her and she heard my voice, she looked up from what she was doing. And what she was doing was that she had a dead rat in her hands and she was sucking and slurping blood from it like crazy, with a tongue that looked like it was covered in thorns or something. Sorry to bother you, I screamed as I took off back towards the doors even faster than before. Moses jumped and almost fell off the steps as I crashed through the doors before slamming them shut and throwing my weight against them to hold them closed. I managed to huff out the words through my exhausted breathing. There's a Dracula in the basement. I told you, Moses said as we ran back up the stairs. What do we do? What do we do? What do we do? I repeated as I rocked back and forth. How am I supposed to know? Moses asked. She said she was planning to leave tonight anyway, didn't she? Our conversation ended when my dad got home and started cooking dinner. Moses stayed to eat, then went home to his own apartment, leaving me alone with the thoughts of that rat-eating monster in the basement of the building. Remembering what the girl said about leaving once it got dark, I kept my eyes on the entrance. Since there was only one way to find out, if she really did leave, it would have to be through the front door. After a few hours, I noticed the shadow cast from the light inside of the building. Someone was about to walk through the door. I quickly ducked down low enough to just peek over the windowsill. And sure enough, it was the girl. She walked through the front doors and into the night. Still, I decided to wait and see if she came back, but after a few more hours passed, I accidentally dozed off. Once I finally woke back up, it was almost midnight. I rolled over in my bed and switched my nightstand lamp on. As the light spread throughout my room, I drew my attention back to the window. I looked out at a figure of an upside-down woman staring at me with glowing yellow eyes. Fuck! I screamed, horrified as she extended her clawed hand down towards the window and began slowly opening it. Boy, I know you ain't in there cussing, yelled my dad from the living room. By the time I turned back to the window from my bedroom door, the window was halfway open. But the girl was nowhere in sight. I got up and ran to the window, slamming it shut and locking it into place. The next morning, I went straight to Moses to tell him what had happened that night. But when I got to his apartment, his mom told me he'd already left before she woke up. Immediately thinking the worst, I took off towards the basement, not having any kind of plan for when I actually got there. When I got to the basement doors, I could already tell that the lights were on. Taking a quick second to get my breathing under control, I cracked one of the doors and peeked in to see if one of the residents might be in there getting something out of storage. Once I was sure none of the other occupants were down there, I opened the door the rest of the way and slowly walked inside. I crept towards the boiler room, where we found the girl the day before, getting the flashlight I had brought down with me ready in hand. But as I got closer, I began to notice a dim light. Then, voices. Jumping from behind the corner, I turned on the flashlight and aimed it into the boiler room, illuminating both Moses and the vampire girl, who were both sitting on the ground in front of an electric lantern. I turned the light off once I noticed both of them raising their hand to keep the beam out of their eyes.
"What the hell is this?"
I shouted.
"Oh hey, I was about to come get you." "That's not what I meant. She literally tried to climb into my window last night like an actual Dracula, and you're down here having a camp out with her."
"All right, she said something about that. She said she did try to leave, but the vampire who attacked her was still looking for her. So she came back here. Something about the way this place smells. Makes it harder to sniff her out or something. She tried to explain it to you last night, but you freaked out and scared her off."
"I scared her?"
"Yeah, she said she would have come to find me instead, but my apartment doesn't have windows, so she went to find you." It was then that I noticed the girl was clean from the blood from the day before, with a pile of used wet wipes and her old blood-stained clothes laying on the ground between them. Then I looked up at her and the new clothes she was wearing.
"Where did this all come from?"
I asked him, gesturing around at the mess.
"From the big bag of clothes my sister was going to give to the Goodwill. I couldn't leave it like that,"
he added, seeing my scowl.
"You can't just adopt a vampire,"
I yelled down at him.
"We don't have any idea what she might do. And she's still a missing white girl in the basement. If someone sees us down here with her, that ain't a good look."
"You do realize I can hear you, right?" The girl suddenly spoke up, startling me and Moses a little. I stuttered before she spoke over me. "I'm not trying to hurt anyone. I've been sticking to rats and other small animals since I got attacked a few nights ago. And my name isn't White Girl. It's Amanda," she said as I stared down at her with my mouth hanging open. "Your tongue's getting dusty." After I snapped my jaw shut in response, I took a deep breath and composed myself before speaking again. "Okay, Amanda. You gotta get the hell out of here," I told her, pointing towards the basement doors.
"I can't." "Why not?"
I yelled back. "Because I haven't got anywhere else to go," she said under her breath.
"What about your parents?"
"They're dead. They died the night I was attacked. I barely got away. They didn't. I fell through my bedroom window when the vampire grabbed me. I pulled him out with me and we both fell several stories to the ground, but he landed on a fence post right next to me and got stuck. So I was able to get away. Moses thinks that the cuts from the broken glass might have caused us to mix blood, and that's how I got turned since he never actually bit me."
"Oh, so now you're a vampire expert?"
I said, looking back over at Moses. "Google," he said back.
"So some kind of foster care thing?"
I suggested.
"Oh yeah, that'll go over well. Hi, my parents were just eaten by a vampire. Also, sunlight scars my flesh. I need to eat raw animals to survive, and I can do this,"
she said sarcastically before her regular teeth drew back, revealing a large set of triangular fangs that looked more like blades than teeth, and extending her ridiculously large tongue as it exploded into a wriggling mass of small barbs.
"Christ, okay, just put that shit away,"
I shouted, flinching and holding my hands up for cover. With a gross slimy sound, she pulled her tongue back and her teeth went back to normal.
"So you see the problem?"
she asked before it was all the way back in her mouth.
"Ugh, okay, whatever. I'm not fighting you two anymore. But if she eats you, don't say I didn't tell you so,"
I said to Moses as I left the boiler room.
"And I'm nailing my goddamn window shut."
Later that night, I sat in my room as I heard a tapping sound on my window. I rolled my head over, knowing there's only one person who could be tapping on my third-story window. This time, seeing an upside-down girl hanging upside down, in the dark, outside my room was more annoying than terrifying. I tried to ignore her, rolling back over to the opposite direction, but the constant tinking was starting to get on my last nerve. I finally stood up, grabbing a notepad and a marker, and walked over to the window, scribbling on the paper as I did. Once I got to the window, I pressed the pad up to the glass to see in bold letters that said, "Fuck off." She paused for a few seconds before resuming the tapping. I reached down and popped the lock of the window and pulled it open just enough to let my voice out.
What?
I whispered loudly through the crack.
Hey, you didn't nail it shut.
I tried. My dad wouldn't let me. Now what are you doing back up here?
People might see you, stupid,
I said, looking into her upside-down face.
I just wanted to thank you for not telling anyone,
she said, crawling down a little closer to the opening, causing me to reflexively put my hand on it to push it closed.
I didn't do it for you.
But you're welcome, I said, closing the window. Once it slid shut, she crawled away over the window, causing me to shiver a little at the sight of her shadowy form descending into the night. After a few seconds, curiosity got the better of me, so I slid the window back open and stuck my head out to see where she went, assuming she was already gone. I looked towards the ground to see a pair of glowing yellow eyes staring back up at me. They blinked a few times before their owner spoke.
I left something on the roof,
she said before crawling around me and my window, then up to the side of the building out of sight. I pulled my head back inside, closed the window, then drew the curtain this time. But before I had a chance to walk away, I heard tapping at the window.
Christ almighty!
I groaned, turning to snatch the curtain back and slam the window open.
What? Hey, can I borrow a pillow?
She asked as she hung upside down once again.
There's not much to put my head on down there. If I give you one, will you go away?
I asked crankily.
Yes.
I grabbed an extra pillow off my bed and stuck it outside for her. She took it from me and started to climb down the wall. Not bothering to reclose the window, I walked over to my closet and grabbed a blanket and walked back over to the window.
Also, can I maybe borrow a blanket? Oh, thanks,
she said, taking the blanket and making her way back down the building. I swear to God she's going to ask me for a cup of sugar next time, I said to Moses the next day, pushing the new pillow, blanket, and air mattress I bought from the Dollar General around the corner.
Give her this and get my stuff back. You dare borrow an air mattress? I didn't know you had one of those.
What? No. I just didn't want her showing up and asking for a whole bed.
Just take this down there on your next play date,
I said, giving the bags of stuff another push.
The more she has to ask for, the more she's going to climb up and down the building. And the more she does, the bigger the chance we all get busted. You know, we could just ask her if she needs anything, so she doesn't have to climb up to your window and ask for it,
Moses suggested, glancing down at the stairs leading to the basement and then back at me.
A jacket would be nice. It's starting to get cold now, and maybe some light bulbs,
she said, pointing up at the empty light socket in the ceiling of the boiler room.
The heater would be good too. And
she looked around the room and she bounced herself softly against the air mattress she was sitting on.
What about a portable DVD player or something?
It's really boring down here all day.
We'll see what we can do, I said, rubbing my temples. Okay, you dig through the storage cage for an old DVD player and heater,
I told Moses as we left the boiler room.
Where are you going?
Thrift store, see if I can't find a jacket and some damn light bulbs, I said as I reached the basement doors. It just got dark by the time I got back, and when I rolled up on my bike, that Amanda girl was standing out in front of the complex, just standing there. I jumped off my bike and ran up to her.
What the hell are you thinking?
I half yelled as I reached her.
There's still people out here right now. Someone's gonna see you. Where's Mo?
He's downstairs. I just wanted some fresh air.
Do you even breathe? Yes, I'm not dead, stupid.
She started to say but stopped, glancing over my shoulder. I turned around to see what she was looking at and saw some raggedy guy creeping towards my bike, which I had left lying behind me.
Hey, don't even, dude!
I shouted, throwing several rocks at him, causing him to run off before he got his hands on my bike.
Fucking crackhead,
I said under my breath as I turned back to face Amanda, who had started to walk past me towards the would-be bike thief.
What are you doing?
I asked, grabbing the back of her shirt and trying to stop her, but she dragged me for several steps like I didn't weigh a thing before she finally snapped out of it.
What? Let go of me, you weirdo!
She said, brushing my hand away.
What the hell was that?
I asked, pointing in the direction the man had went.
What was what?
She asked in response. Nothing. Here's your stupid jacket, I said, reaching into the bag and handing it to her. Now let's hurry up and go put one of these bulbs in. I've got school tomorrow.
Do you think that man will tell anyone about seeing me?
Nah, probably not. Nobody believes crackheads anyway.
What the hell is this?
I shouted at Moses as we made our way into the boiler room,
Well, he was in the middle of carefully adjusting the position of a small end table near the far wall. He had apparently dug up a bunch of other stuff out of the storage as well, like tables and chairs, stuffed animals and lamps, and a couch, which were all carefully and neatly set up around the room. I said just get a heater and a DVD player. This place looks better than my room now. Is this all from the storage? I asked in disbelief. Yeah, we still had a lot of stuff from back before my dad lost his job. The old house was a lot bigger than our apartment. Did you find the light bulbs? I dug through the plastic bag and tossed him one of the bulbs, then set the rest down on the nearest of the many small tables. A few seconds later, he screwed the light into the socket and flipped the switch. Yep, definitely nicer than my room, I mumbled, looking around the freshly lit space. So, what the hell are you going to do if someone comes down here and sees all this light pouring out from the boiler room? I asked skeptically. They both exchanged a confused look, then looked back at me. We hadn't thought of that, they both said together. Ugh, I groaned, rubbing a sore spot in the side of my head. An hour later, I was back in the basement with my dad's tools and the instructions from the internet scribbled on a piece of paper, now trying to rewire the lights. After a while, I finally flipped the breaker back on and closed up the toolbox. Okay, let's see if this works, I said, looking down towards the light shining out from around the corner of the boiler room. If I did this right, then the basement lights get turned on. It should cut the power to the boiler room, and hopefully not catch the building on fire. I then walked around the small partition to the basement doors and flipped the light switch. It worked! Amanda shouted from outside in the boiler room. That's so cool! She shrieked, causing me to smirk a little with pride. Good thing you're like the smartest kid in our class, Moses said, peeking around the corner. I don't think I could have figured that out. Not really, I was just following instructions exactly as they're given. Just like in school, I told him, holding up a piece of paper with the instructions on it. They don't want smart students. They want obedient ones. I added, balling up the piece of paper, which I tossed into the trash that Moses had set up in the boiler room once we got there. So, rats? I asked, plopping down on the couch. Yeah, pretty much, Amanda answered. Seems like they've been doing the trick for the past few days. Okay then, where are the remains? I asked, looking around the room. Oh, well, there aren't any, she said, seeming to become embarrassed and lowering her head. What? How? I asked, leaning forward in my seat. I think I make some kind of... what's the word? Secretion? Enzyme? I suggested. Enzyme, that's the one. Something that liquefies the whole thing except for the teeth. Even the bone. I think it comes from these, she said, extending her tongue and pointing to the tiny little quill-like structures that protruded from inside once it opened up. Okay, please put the thing away. Freaks me out, I yelled, almost climbing over the back of the couch. It's you out. It's in my mouth, she said, or tried to say as the spiny tongue still wriggled around in the air between us. Okay, I get it. Just could you don't? I begged. Once the sound of my panic died down, the sounds of Moses' cackling laughter could be heard from the chair opposite me. Oh, I'm glad you're enjoying yourself, I said, glaring at him. I am, I really am, he laughed, clutching his sides as he doubled over in his seat. Anyway, there's this enzyme thing that turns everything but the teeth into a gooey, bloody liquid that I kinda... She trailed off as she saw the grossed out look on my face. Do we want to know what happens to the... You do not want to know what happens to the teeth. Well, I guess that makes sense. Explains how vampires exist, but there's not a bunch of bloodless bodies turning up all the time. Okay, well, I'm gonna go now and try to forget about all this. So you're not gonna come back down here anymore? Nope. I'm done with it from here on out. You'll probably never see me again. My back is a flat, don't even say nothing, I said, pushing Moses out of the way as I walked through the basement door. Bike, flat tire, shut it, I said to Amanda, who gave me some kind of look as I plopped down on the couch and started flipping through a box of DVDs. Hanging out in the basement became a regular thing over the following days.
Not just because of the novelty of the situation, but because it was also much more mellow and peaceful than our apartments, which were either constantly in a state of, or surrounded by, some kind of turmoil. However, we noticed that Amanda was beginning to get a little short and snappy with us. So, assuming she probably wanted some time to herself, we decided to spend Friday out of the boiler room. Later that evening, after school, Moses and I were in the alley next to the building as I put the chain back on his bike.
Why does yours never do that?
He asked. Because I actually take care of mine, I told him, rolling the bike back up to him.
You haven't even oiled the chain since you got it.
That's when we heard a voice come from in the complex, just out of sight around the corner. It sounded like a man talking on his phone. Yeah, but I think I have an idea. There's this place in the back nobody ever goes where it can cook, the man said to whoever it was on the other end of the call. I'll send you some pictures real quick. Let me just go take some. After that, the voice went quiet, and we got back to messing with our bikes for a few more minutes before a thought occurred to me.
Hey, Mo, isn't cooking slang for something?
Yeah, I think it's for making meth, I think.
Like they said it all the time on Breaking Bad.
That's when both of our expressions changed to match.
You think that's the guy?
He started to ask, but before he could finish, I dropped my bike and was running full sprint to the entrance with Moses close behind me. We slammed the door to the stairwell open and made our way down as fast as we could, stumbling over each other several times along the way. I kicked open the door to the basement and flipped on the switch, not even remotely prepared for what would happen if we encountered the man, or anything else thereafter. Or at least I would have, but the switch was already on. We looked down that seemingly empty corridor of chain-link cages, then back at one another.
Amanda!
Moses called out towards the boiler room, but got no reply. Slowly, we both crept our way to the back room as quietly as possible, even though looking back, we had already done a pretty solid job of making our presence obvious, and we were so winded from running that we couldn't have been quiet if we were really trying to. But it seemed like the thing to be doing at the time. Once we finally got to the other side, I pulled the flashlight from my pocket and switched it on, illuminating the small, seemingly empty space.
I guess he didn't mean this place after all,
Moses said.
But where's Amanda? Is it already dark enough for her to go outside?
Yeah, I guess it must be, I answered as I tried to get my breathing under control, giving the room one more sweep of light. All that for nothing. You need to stop jumping to conclusions, I said to Moses as we started to leave. Then something bumped me on the side of my head. Clicking the light back on, I aimed it to see what I ran into. Mo, run. I tried to whisper, but I choked on my words as the light hit one of two legs that were hanging down from the ceiling, which led my vision the rest of the way up to the person's body to see what was holding it up. She was clinging to the ceiling by all fours, her unnaturally long tongue deeply inserted into the man's neck, from which a few of its many spines could be seen protruding from underneath its skin as it pulsated and blood trickled from the jagged open wounds. Her vicious yellow eyes suddenly flicked over to meet mine as I gazed up in horror from the ground.
Huh? Why?
Moses asked before his eyes followed the light and he saw for himself.
Eli,
I heard him whimper.
Mo, run, goddammit!
I shouted at him this time and gave him a hard shove in the right direction. We both took off down the basement until we hit the doors and scrambled through them. I made it out first and waited for Moses. He stumbled out a second after, then I slammed the door shut and pressed my weight against them. As soon as Moses cleared the doors, he dropped to his knees and violently puked all over the white tile floor at the foot of the stairs. He looked up at me from the ground with a look of shock and terror practically welded to his face for several seconds before I said the only thing I could think of. I'm not cleaning that up.
What the hell's that?
Moses asked the next day as I met him to the entrance of the basement. Wooden stake, I answered, holding up the roughly whittled spike. I'm not going down without a fight.
You're being stupid again. We need to hear her side of the story.
Moses told me, but I brushed him off. I'm still gonna shank her if she comes at me, I asserted, trying to hide the shaking in my voice best I could. As we got to the boiler room, we slowly peeked around the corner, but nobody was there. All the lights were on, but Amanda was nowhere to be found. We stepped into the room and looked around as we spoke.
You think she ran away?
Moses asked. Probably, I answered,
looking around for anything that might tell us if she might come back or if she was gone forever. While I shifted some clutter around on the tables, I heard something hit the floor behind me. As I turned to see what it was, I found myself face to face with Amanda. Her mouth was open as she reached for me, and in a panic, I drove the wooden stake deep into her chest. I saw a look of confusion wash over her face. Then she looked down at the object penetrating her chest. She softly coughed up a stream of blood and looked back at me. Then her eyes widened in shock as she gripped the spike and started to scream at the top of her lungs.
Ow! What the hell did you do that for?
She yelled in my face.
Oh my God, I don't know, I'm sorry. I panicked, I swear to God.
I yelled back over Moses, who was now also yelling. Not words, just yelling and being generally unhelpful.
Well, get it out, it hurts!
She demanded as she fell to the ground, kicking and flailing wildly. Obeying, I took a hold of it and tried pulling it out, but it only seemed to make things worse. Because she screamed louder and threatened to kill me if I didn't do something. Damned if I do, damned if I don't. So I tried to put one foot on her chest for leverage, and, well, that went about as well as you'd expect.
You're crushing my boob, dumbass! You don't even have boobs!
I shouted back.
Try twisting it!
Moses added.
Twist her boob?
I asked, pausing for the suggestion.
I mean the steak, aren't you the smart one?
Moses said, at which point Amanda grabbed the collar of my shirt, pulling my face close to hers.
If you twist anything, I'll pull your spine out through your urethra. Get this thing out of my chest.
She hissed at me. What's a urethra? Moses asked.
Dickhole!
Amanda and I both turned our heads to shout at him. I was just asking a question, you don't have to insult me, he mumbled. After a few more minutes of screaming and cursing, we finally managed to wiggle the stake out of her chest, which had gotten lodged between her ribs. And then we fell to a cold floor in exhaustion. We lay there for a while, trying to catch our breath before anyone spoke. And it was Amanda who finally broke the silence. So, I guess I have some explaining to do.
Yeah, you do,
I said, staring up at the boiler room ceiling.
I can't explain it.
It had felt like the rats had been doing less and less in the last few days. But I thought I had it under control. Then that guy came walking in. The smell. It was like when you walk into a bakery or something. I couldn't help myself, it just happened.
You accidentally ate a guy.
Yeah, or no, I don't know. It was like how when you hold your breath for a really long time, then after so long you have to breathe. I don't know how all this works. When she was done, I picked myself up off the floor and dusted myself off before starting to make my way for the basement doors. I'm going back upstairs. Try not to eat Moses while I'm gone, I said, turning around to face her. Try not to grab anyone's chest. Fair enough, I said after a pause, then left for the stairs.
Hey, son of a bitch, hey!
I shouted at a couple of crackheads who were inspecting mine and Moses' bikes that were accidentally left outside the day before.
Yeah!
I yelled at them as I grabbed a metal trash can lid and stick off the ground and started beating them together to frighten them off. They're not raccoons, you know. Amanda's voice came up from behind me as I bent down to recover our bikes. Might as well be, I said, turning around to face her. Once I did, I could see she was still wearing the t-shirt with a hole and fresh blood all over it.
What the hell?
I hissed at her.
What the hell? What if someone sees you? And sees you like this, especially? Come on.
I said, trying to pull her along with me inside and back down to the basement. Before we got there, someone opened the door in front and started to walk out.
Shit,
I whispered, yanking Amanda back into the alley and down behind the trash cans. I peeked through an opening between two of the cans and watched as a young woman I had never seen before exited the building. She had glasses and dark hair that she kept in a bun. She wore kinda nice clothes, too. Not real nice, but like something someone who works in a cubicle will wear. Just a white button shirt with the sleeves rolled up and black dress pants. I figured she must be a social worker or something. Once she was gone, I told Amanda to stay put, then ran up to the door to make sure it was clear before I gave her the signal to come out. Once we were in, I didn't waste time pushing her towards the door to the stairwell.
Stop doing that. If someone sees you, we're all in deep shit,
I told her as we entered the stairwell. I'm not going to tell on you if someone finds me.
That's not a risk I feel like taking. Now get a different t-shirt. I can see a boob through the hole, I instructed, causing her to blush, squeal, and take off running down the stairs to the basement. That was some serious anime shit, I thought to myself as I left the stairwell in a hurry to beat the baseheads back to the bikes. After that, I brought our bikes in and dropped Moses's abruptly on the other side of the stairwell doors before rolling mine back up to my apartment.
Hey guys, it's Nature's Temper here, and I just wanted to add something real quick. When narrating something from a character's perspective, I always try to be as authentic as possible, and not just do something in my normal voice all the time. That being said, I have a very limited repertoire when it comes to accents and voices, and I do apologize if any of these seem offensive. Thank you for watching, and I hope you stay tuned for the next installment.